Very, very good young American in Alex Michelsen. It's going to be fascinating to see how the youngster copes with the occasion and the quality down the far end of the court. Good conditions today. A lot cooler for everybody, which is good news. A day of survival in New York yesterday. Trying to get on and off the court as quickly as possible.
Michelsen to serve. Ready?
The American will get us underway. Looking for a place in round 3.
Allow 15.
.6475, that meeting in Cincinnati. That was the tournament just before the US Open. It's the sort of quality he's facing today.
Allow 30.
Did awfully well off balance. Making a quick start here, Sinner. It's a second round match, so got a look at Sinner early in the draw in Cincy on the quick courts that Jim was just telling us about. Sinner losing in the quarterfinals the week before in Montreal. Early pressure for the 20-year-old American.
Let first service. Let first service.
It's just deep. So an early break for the world #1. Perfect start for Jannik Sinner. In contrast to...
So, no excuses for either player to produce their very best tennis today.
Yes, well done.
Allow 15.
Sinner's going to challenge Michelsen as much as he can to play defense. Good reactions there from the American to go behind Sinner. Cooler conditions mean the ball will be traveling a little bit slower than it has been the past couple of days. A little easier to defend today.
The events of the last week or so, Jim, of course, it's a question I think we have to ask, and then we'll focus on the tennis. How much of a distraction do you think it has been for Sinner and will be over the next few days if he keeps going through the draw? Does that make it harder to win tennis matches?
We're just speculating because we're not Jannik or on his team. But by looking at the first set and a half of his match, he certainly looked like he needed some time to get his feet underneath him in the opening round, which is understandable. That's perfect from Michelson. Here comes triple break point to get right back level. But it was a lot for Sinner, I'm sure, to hold on to for as long as he did and keep it private and quiet and hope for the best outcome, which he got, by the way. And then face the press and face it head on and not shy away from the questions. Very direct with his answers. Took the one-on-one interviews as well with broadcasters. So he did what he needed to do to tell his side of the story. Still waiting to hear from the drug authorities, by the way, to hear their side. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know why Jannik Sinner is the only one up on the dais speaking to the press. I think the people who made the decisions on how he was treated, why he was treated that way, need to be responsible for their actions as well. So all the people in the playing group have more comfort about the system, right? There's still questions hanging over the application of the rules that they could clarify, and they have not. And that, I think, needs to change.
30-40.
But the more games that he can win here in matches like this, that's just distance that he's putting between that scenario and what's in front of him. That's his job to maintain a clean sheet going forward. Don't test positive again. I'm sure he'll be pretty mindful of that.
Point number 3 for the American. Can he strike here?
Gets a second serve to challenge.
It's just deep. And he responds immediately. That's a good effort on a day when he is presented with one of the biggest tests in tennis on the biggest court in the world. Are you keeping an eye on him, Jim, in that respect, just to see how he settles into this environment?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this is a lot to tackle. Getting out here on the big show court and taking on Jannik. Alex hopefully settles into it. But before we jump too far into that, I want to take you and Robbie's temperature on the LaFerre Sinner as well, see where you guys have landed now that we've had a week to digest it and get some information.
Let for service.
Yeah. In response to your initial thought, I don't know if the drug authorities have ever spoken to the press about any of the decisions that they've made historically, Jim.
But they need to, don't they?
Well, unless they change their protocols going forward, yes, they will. But, you know, on historical evidence, they haven't. I had a good chat with my brother, who's served on a lot of tribunals. He's a lawyer, and I gave him the case to read through, and I cross-questioned him to answer some of the questions that I had. But he said that the way the QC evaluated the case was absolutely bang on to every detail. The way it was handled purely from a law perspective, there was no holes in the argument as to why Sinner was found with no fault. So that was some interesting feedback. And I guess for me, the only question I had after all the discussions was why Umberto had the stuff in the first place. If he's an expert in pharmacology, why have you got it in the first place? And that's still the one question that I can't answer. Yep. Why even take the risk?
Yep. How about you, Lee?
I would agree with you. I think that's been the focus of the discussions lately, hasn't it? What's around the treatment of Jannik. And I think that needs to come from the other side. I agree. And then we can all have our private opinions and move on, and as you say, see how he moves forward.
Yeah. Fair application of the rules for all players, regardless of ranking or financial status. That's what I think everyone in the playing group is looking for, and not getting comfort at the moment from that.
Well, that's an impressive response from the young American, who has hit back nicely. So we're quickly back on serve inside Arthur Ashe Stadium. It's filling up nicely. Sinner breaking immediately. If you're just joining us for our coverage of day 4 here at the US Open, it's a nice order of play on this main show court, as is always the case. Iga Świątek in action after this one as the second match of the day session. Naomi Osaka is opening the night session. Carlos Alcaraz on court against Botic van der Zandschulp from the Netherlands, who had a good run here a few years ago as a qualifier, I seem to remember. Fabulous ball striking.
And when he played against him in Cincinnati, Michelson, he couldn't believe how good the open stance backhand of Sinner was. He said he'd hit one of his good backhands, and when other players would be chiseling a slice, the ability of Sinner just to plant that left leg and drill that backhand is something that surprised him.
You know what I'd say to that, Robbie? I'd say do a little better job scouting. That's not a new feature to Sinner's game. He's been rocking that open stance Djokovic-like backhand now for quite some time.
Yeah, no, he did say that. He said, listen, you see it on TV, Jim, and it looks impressive, but it's only when you get down onto the court and you play with them that you realize how effective it is. I mean, Michelson's backhand is money.
Just a quick reminder to download the US Open app. You can follow all your favorite players, all the scores on there, the stats, the highlights, player news. Available in the App Store and the Google Play Store. It's the US Open app.
A lovely story about Alex Michelsen. I saw him at the Waco Challenger. I was visiting my son at college last year, and I saw him playing in the Challenger there in February. I didn't know who he was. Couldn't believe how good the length was on his backhand, how solid of a shot it was, how well he maintained the length within a meter of the baseline, regularly long rallies. And that's when he first came on my radar as a player. And then later in the season, when he makes it to the semi-finals in Newport, I see him win a semi-final match, hit the ball into the crowd, and then he takes his left hand into his pocket and he throws a ball into the crowd. And the manner with which he threw the ball into the crowd showed me he was a natural left-handed. And then I started to put 2 and 2 together, Lee, Jim, and I can understand why the feel on his backhand is so good now. And only after discovering that did it all come together and make sense to me.
He's looking good in these early stages. Trailing 2-3 on serve, early stages. Stuff off both wings that time.
15.
His backhand, as Robbie's saying, it's so reliable. If he can make his forehand a weapon, this one nearly goes around the net post, and it certainly did what it needed to do. If he can become a force off of both sides like Sinner, then it's going to be an ascent that's going to keep going.
You know,
6'4" with the ability probably to add. I'm guessing, guys, he can put on another 4 or 5 miles an hour top end speed on his serve. Probably make the second serve heavier with a little bit more weight training, and racket head speed would come with that. loses that point, but how about that return to serve?
Yeah, something that stood out in Cincy when these two played.
30-15.
Yeah, and he had a couple of opportunities, as you alluded to, Lee. 8 break points, wasn't able to convert on any. And he says, yes, the stat, you can look at that as a negative, but also a positive. He created more opportunities, more break points than what Sinner did in that match. I like the attitude.
Let.
Half
First
full
service.
rather than half empty.
Comes across as a very confident, ambitious young man. Hates to lose. A lot of stories about playing all sorts of sports as a kid. That was a competitive spirit that was evident from an early age.
You Brits have a way of saying things and making it sound so polite and nice, but when I hear you say competitive, and what I'm really hearing you say, and I'm seeing you say it because I'm sitting next to you, is he's cocky. Is that really what we're getting down to?
But in a good way. I think you need to be, right? In a individual sport, to a degree.
I was never cocky, but
You need Robbie's.
Ooh. Oh!
Well watched.
That we got a little tricky with the backspin on it at 30-all. That could have gotten dicey if it went back over the net.
Well, I'll tell you what almost got tricky as the ball kid almost reached up to grab the ball, guys. And at the last minute, he pulled away. Just wondering if there was some hindrance there.
Game, Skinner.
Not that we needed it there, but we do have video review system in operation across 8 courts this year, which is up from 5 courts last year. Starting to become more of a feature here at the US Open. I haven't heard that we've had one this week. Robbie, have you heard?
No,
Jim?
but I thought we should have had one. I was doing Tommy Paul's match with Lorenzo Sonego, and Lorenzo hits a volley at the net, which turned out to be a winning volley. But as he hits it, he slips, and his racket went into the net. And whether the ball bounced twice or whether the racket hit the net first was so tight. I'm surprised Tommy Paul didn't ask for a review. I thought, man, I was going to be there and watch my first one, but it didn't unfold.
Hot topic of conversation after the Jack Draper,
Allow 15.
Felix Auger-Aliassime incident in Cincy. So it's good timing to have the 8 courts here with video review technology. Courts are playing medium fast here in New York. That's what we've been told. That's our understanding. So perhaps a touch slower than Cincy. Do you agree with that, Jim? You were over
Without
there.
question.
Yeah.
I'm not playing on the courts, but I can just tell you in the conversations that I was having at the end of Cincinnati with players who had moved over here and were practicing on Ash Stadium, they were noticing that the balls, which got smaller in Cincinnati because there was so little grain in the court, so little friction, they were fluffing up immediately here, which they like. Just missed it. So Sinner now on the cusp of getting another break of serve, but I can tell you the players,
40.
by and large, I'll be surprised if there's not the players don't make it known to Cincinnati they want the court to be slower next year than it was this year, because it was such an outlier speed, and players like Alcaraz were clearly flustered by it. And a lot more comfortable here. This is an uncomfortable situation for the American. Triple break point for the Italian.
Game, Skinner.
And another break-up serve comes
New ball
midway
fleet.
through the opening set.
Come on, make them nice and quick.
So Sinner once more up a break. He broke early before Michelson hit back. Let's see whether he can build on this advantage now. 4-3 serving. If you left us for the sit down, Robbie Koenig was just telling us how much he liked the fast Cincy courts. That sounded like a serve and volleyer talking there, Robbie.
I just wish I had the serve to go with it.
What's your view on court speeds and diversity of them, Lee?
I liked it. I liked it. Having said that, it did feel like a slightly strange Masters 1000 to me. I didn't, and I mean this, I'm trying not to say this in a negative way, I didn't feel like many people were playing well. Whether it was the court speed, we had a bit of wind as well, didn't we? A bit of weather to contend with. I don't know whether you'd agree with that. I'm not sure whether we saw the best tennis from all concerned, you know.
Well, if I'm making excuses for the players, numbers don't lie. There were far more unforced errors than winners, even by people winning matches. It was ugly tennis, I thought, all week long. Whether that was due to fatigue from a compressed schedule with the Olympics this year, whether it was with the wind, whatever the reason, it was clear that the tennis level was not what we're used to seeing at these. I'm a baseliner, so I like when the rallies are physical. I like when there's a chess match. And what I also noticed, and Robbie may disagree with this, but the facts don't lie, there were fewer net approaches. People couldn't get to the net. Things were happening too quickly. That's beautiful. You'll see far more players at the net on this speed of surface because they'll have time to set up and play offense and then make their move in. Now, if all surfaces, Robbie, were like Cincinnati, you might see a resurrection of serve and volley tennis, a Max Purcell style game. Maybe you'd take 10 years for that to happen because people would have to start practicing it as juniors. But you know, that might bring that back to the fore. I have my doubts given the equipment these days that you can be that successful serving and volleying. But
oh, that's unbelievable. How about that return?
Well, he's almost taken a body blow when returning serve, and then on the very next swing, he's landed a haymaker, guys.
Brings up a chance here. Get back on level terms once more. Sinner's reaction there knows this is a big game.
The problems in Cincinnati as well is having all the 8 break points that Michelson had. That they only came in individual opportunities. None of the break points were at a 15-40 or a love 40. So you get that one chance each time it comes. It can play a part in trying to break a guy's serve.
Seemed to lose his bearings there for a moment. Is it bright up there, Robbie?
Advantage,
I'm not giving him that excuse because the clouds are covering the sun there. It was just a poor execution. He actually decelerated for whatever reason on that smash.
Certainly was trying to shield his eyes from the sun with his left hand, and it looked like he also was just misjudging the wind. If there is any wind down there, it looked like it did impact the flight of the ball. Didn't get settled. Here comes another break point. This time a second serve for Michelson to attack.
Second break of serve for the 20-year-old. Once more he responds impressively.
4 games on.
Well, as was the case in Cincinnati, he is proving to be a handful.
Jim, and just my final thoughts on Cincy was, I mean, I thought playing on clay, most of the guys who played at the Olympics, I don't think it's a smart schedule. I think a lot of them wanted to experience the Olympics, and that's why I think that was a major contributor into the tennis not being good either. Yes, of course, the speed of the court. And I remember in Canada last year, the wind blew like crazy, and the tennis was ugly there too. So that's also going to be a contributing factor. So I guess definitely, the only thing I'd argue is that it's not the surface alone. I think there was a lot going on around Cincy this year that contributed to the tennis not being as visually pleasing on the eye as we're used to seeing.
All right, you rest your case. Well done.
This is something that he said he wants to work on more, being a little bit more offensively minded. He thinks that's the next level to his game. And of course, with improved physicality, Jim, the ability to get forward with urgency like that is going to be better. Get that ball while it's still above the heart of the net.
Sure whether that was good, but of course electronic line calling is the close call on the big screen. That's how close it was.
99% out is 100% in.
It's all of a sudden changed the pace with a couple of forehands there, Sinner. For all 30 all. It's the sharp end of this opening set. Let's see how he copes here, the youngster.
Ledge for service.
He just turned 20 just a few days ago, in fact. 25th of August. It's a US Open birthday.
Good point from Michelson from a mental perspective, because he was unhappy with the initial call of let when he got the unreturned serve. He thought the serve was way over. Damien just held up the device to say, hey, listen, the machine went off. So it was a good mini mental reset from young Alex. Well done.
Yes.
It's a good summer. Michelson made another final in Newport. That's an ATP 250 grass court event just after Wimbledon. In fact, back-to-back finals there. Made the final there in 2023 and another final in Winston-Salem last week on the hard courts of the Wake Forest University. He's won quite a few matches of late.
Puts himself in a hole here with that double fault. Chance for another break of serve for Jannik Sinner. And Sinner not the only one carrying a little bit of a cloud into the US Open on on arriving into the final, things looking good for Michelson and Winston-Salem, and then hit a ball in anger into the stands, and probably should have been defaulted in that final. Was certainly embarrassed and almost devastated in real time when he realized what he'd done. Shook him up badly for a few days, his team told me. Feeling a little bit better out here now, just clear-minded with his vision of what he wants to do against Sinner, which is play on that front foot, and that makes sense. When movement is not necessarily the best asset you bring to the court, if you can prevent your opponent from playing offense, you know, that's the right strategy. That's what Taylor Fritz does so well. Controls the center of the court against most players. Do against someone who covers the court quite as well as Sinner, though. A lot of pressure on you all the time.
Advantage, Sinner.
It's the 9th time he's been forward today. 4 of 9 of those net points won so far.
Yeah, and those numbers would indicate he's probably pressing a little bit to get in too soon. Maybe wait a beat till he has a bigger advantage to come in for an easier volley. But Sinner makes players have to confront those choices. Do I stay back and rally? Is that a better chance of winning against this complete player? Do I have to take on so much more risk than I'm comfortable with to stay with him? Those are the questions Sinner makes people answer.
Advantage, Sinner.
So another chance, pressure building on the young American. How long can he survive this sort of pressure? The Americans team hoping he can defend another break points here. What a shame, double fault. Hands over the break, and it could be a decisive.
At the very least.
Yeah, good to hear he's looking fit today. So a chance to serve out this first set.
Eight second serve points for Sinner played so far today. He's won just one of them. The return to serve has been pretty effective from Michelson, really just deploying a simple strategy. Bang it flat and deep and push Sinner back and then go to work, but not able to get in control on that rally. Sinner punches away that overhead nicely.
Second serve point lost. First double fault for the Italian. Five breaks of serve already in this opening set. It's slightly unusual in that regard. We're about to see another.
15-13.
2 out of 11 on second serve points won is ridiculous. Jannik Sinner is #1 on tour this year, winning second serve points. He wins nearly 60% of them, playing largely against the best players in the world. He is in struggle town right now against Michelson. I'll tell you, solve that problem though. Don't have to hit second serves and you can be okay.
Good behind the first serve, 13 of 17 of those points won. First serve percentage hovering around the 60% territory so far.
40-13.
It hasn't been the cleanest of service games, but here he is with set point. And that will do it. Complicated sets for the world number one. Didn't have everything go his way. Dropped serve a couple of times, but he's come
through the middle of the court, and then I'm better than most people once the rally is at neutral. And it's all kind of congealing for him.
Michelsen to serve.
So first set in the pocket, 45 minutes of play. Here comes set two.
15.
Amazing when you look at the ball flight from the side-on view. You watch the lower-ranked players. You always think the ball's going to be landing short, but when Jannik's at that backhand, I think it's going out because I'm so used to watching the lesser-ranked players' ball flight. His stays in the air much longer. You think it's going out? No. Back meter of the court.
To miss the Olympics, Jannik with the tonsillitis issue was under the weather when he lost that long match against Medvedev at Wimbledon as well. He's had a few issues this summer, hip as well that we mentioned. Lost his quarter-final match in Montreal. It's the first of the two back-to-back Masters events during the summer to Andrei Rublev. Seemed to be in quite a bit of discomfort massaging that hip area in Canada, and it was evident early in Cincy, wasn't it? He didn't look particularly comfortable that week. Jim, would you agree with that?
Yeah, it was evident throughout the tournament, even in the final. Massaging, getting treatment. Looked like he was limping around, and yet he was still able to move as much as he needed to.
Second service.
But it is worrying that it's months and months following the initial problem in Monte Carlo that it's still trailing him. When's he going to get the month-long break that he might need to actually heal? Would be the question I would have. In an Olympic year, you know, you get injured in the clay court season in the run-up to the Italian Open, which he missed. That had to hurt. That showed you how much he was hurt. And then he gets through Roland Garros, gets through Wimbledon, would have gotten through the Olympics, but for the tonsillitis, straight onto the hard. It's a full schedule. But he's got to find us a little space in it somewhere to get right. You can't just keep carrying an injury.
Chinese variation.
30-40.
Yes, it won't be long before the Asian swing is upon us. Won the Beijing title last year. That was a big week for Sinner. Very, very strong ATP 500. Beating Medvedev in the final. Significant victory. Beat Medvedev in Vienna as well last autumn. Strikes early. This has been profitable.
His coaches, along with Robbie Ginepri, telling him, don't worry about being down a break. Breaking back, it's available. That you can attack his second serve. So they're trying to keep him positive here in the face of this adversity, setting a break down.
Left.
Just back to Sinner. He's 1,000 points clear right now in the ATP race for the year-end world #1. So points made only this year in 2024. So that has to be a factor for him and his team trying to be year-end #1, which is a huge accomplishment. In balancing that with the long-term view of we've got another 10 to 12, 13 years to try and achieve a lot of things. How do we make sure that we don't compromise anything long-term? That's the value of having a team, especially with someone like Cahill, who's been around world #1s plenty, understands the longevity battle.
Isn't it? Because the important weeks just keep coming. Of course, he's going to have ATP finals on home soil. That's massive as well, isn't it? Came close to winning that last year. That will be another goal. Davis Cup then to take part in. You would imagine Jannik will be part of that team, having led the Italians to victory for the first time for a long time last year. It's down in Malaga in the south of Spain again, just after the ATP finals. Filippo Volandri, I think, isn't it? The Italian Davis Cup captain. He'll be on the phone. Jannik in the team.
Oh, he doesn't have to be on the phone. He's here in New York City. He's roaming around, and lots of Italians for him to keep his eyes on, not just Jannik.
I was about to say he's spoiled for choice, isn't he, with Lorenzo Musetti's year. Berrettini looking pretty good this summer, although he lost last night to Taylor Fritz.
Is that the right shot, Robbie, for Michelson to attack on?
Yeah, I'd probably like to see the view a little bit better from behind.
Second set.
But I think if you had a faster hard court, that volley would have skidded through a bit more, Jim.
Get under your toss on the second. Give me a little more arc.
Not a big advocate of approaching cross court. So that forehand down the line approach I like. Natural pattern of play, then goes with the pass cross court. Yeah, just think he's got to improve the volleys there. A little bit more stick on the volley would have helped.
So love two.
He's come in a couple of times randomly as Michelson. I think such an important part of being good at the net is obviously picking the right shots to come in on, right, and understanding those patterns of play. And I think that's a skill that he's still developing.
Oh, that's world class.
I'm still astonished how often players, speaking of Italians, Lorenzo Sonego the other night against Tommy Paul, how often he came in on a medium ball forehand cross court to Tommy's forehand, and it's such a dangerous play. How coaches don't pick that up. Players probably lose that pattern of play 80% of the time.
It's fabulous. Great anticipation from Sinner. He was in the right spots. at the right time, waiting for the backhand.
15-13.
Starting to pull away. These early stages of set number 2.
So tough there to defend against somebody who passes well down the line. That's the most direct way past you at the net. It's tough. Much tougher than the cross-court pass.
That ball was going to go wide for sure if the net didn't redirect it. I don't know how the spin of the shot somehow caromed it back into the court, but that gets Michelson to 30 all instead of 15-40. That was incredibly lucky if you're a Michelson fan. Unlucky if you're a Sinner fan. Jeez.
Stretch far enough.
So again, it's an approach shot with not enough oomph or precision to it. Look where this lands. That is not an approach shot. That is a recipe for disaster. You have to absolutely be hurting Jannik Sinner to get yourself in position at the net. Otherwise, you're going to need, I mean, I don't know what to happen to win a point. That's why he's 4 of 13 at the net. That's just, boy, that's a nice little note for his coaching staff to go out on the court and practice thumping approach shots. You can go to big targets, but you've got to rip the cover off the ball and make sure you're getting a nice easy volley to hit. That was no man's land.
And it's another break.
But definitely being outplayed here on Arthur Ashe Stadium so far.
Training by a set of 3 love, Robbie, but you've probably got the best view of Alex Michelsen down there. Do you like the overall package? Are you excited about his future?
I am. I think he's got so much upside. Just speaking to a couple of people that train out there with him. Of course, my good friend Chris Groh out in San Diego helps out learn at a bit. They used to practice together quite a bit, but it's not so much the case anymore. But he was saying they play a lot of points. That's what they like to do at the little academy that they train out in California. And he still thinks there's so much upside for his game when he becomes a bit more disciplined, hitting a few more balls, help the consistency. But I think one of the reasons he's such a good competitor, Lee, is because he just loves playing points. And you learn some great skills by doing that. And you become a good match player. I mean, how often do we see players hitting millions of reps on the court, nice, comfortable basket drills, but when they get out in a match, they're not as good as problem solving because the ball is not exactly where they want it to be. And I always think it's a massive advantage when you have a lot of success when you're young. It just grows that belief that you belong at the highest level, and he certainly had that.
Oh dear, there's been too much wrong in this set, but let's judge that one.
14.
And then to Jim's point, you know, now that he's played against Jannik on 2 occasions, top-class opposition, the feedback is, you know, it's in your face. It'll be tough feedback. Improvements need to be made, and you realize that at a young age, so you can implement from early on in your career. Well, you hope that they will implement sooner rather than later.
Game, Sinner.
So the first 4 games disappeared pretty quickly in this second
Sinner
set.
leads
Different
4
story
games to none.
compared to
Second
the
set.
first. That's the official website address, just appearing in the bottom right of the screen, usopen.org. That's your home for all the live scoring throughout this first week and beyond, of course. All the highlights on there, the real-time stats, the draws and schedules. Once we get into the second half of the day, the Friday schedule will be appearing fairly soon. Visit the official tournament website, that's usopen.org. Plenty of tennis around the grounds today to keep track of, as is always the case. Early on in these majors, top half of the men's draw today, top half of the women's singles draw as well. So
Well, 15.
some big names in action. Alcaraz later today. So Sinner and Alcaraz, in theory, on a collision course for the semi-finals. That both in the top half. Djokovic and Zverev down in the bottom half.
Lee, ring, ring. Danielle Medvedev is on line 1 for you. He would like a word. He's in Sinner's quarterfinal.
Just telling him I'm not available.
Have you heard he's a hard court specialist, although he has not been playing up to his typical awesome standard on the surface.
No, he's had a funny
this
summer.
summer.
Hasn't he?
Yeah. He has not played great, but he is ever dangerous once he gets in motion. A finalist here last year.
He likes it here. Former champion, of course. Yeah, Robbie and I did his opening match, which wasn't easy against Lajovic. He played well, Rob, didn't he?
He did. He needed to. The level from Lajovic in the second set was phenomenal.
Love, 14.
But was it phenomenal, Robbie?
Only reserved for one player. Come on, Jim.
Come on, give me a little something. I need a little special
You're
Koenig
the
sauce
expert.
at some
You're
point
the
today.
Expert. We all look up to you, Jumbo.
That's only because you're courtside and we're up here in the nosebleeds. But hey, guys, I'm looking at the stats from when these guys played in Cincy, and I didn't call that match, so I didn't see it in great detail, just highlights. But net points won for Michelson there, again, in the negative. 5 for 12. Better than he's doing so far here. That was a better approach there. That was a desperate pass rather than a settled pass.
13, 14.
So that's that kind of data. If you're a coaching team, you definitely have that top of mind, top of your legal pad when you're thinking about what we're going to work on a go-forward basis. It's not an aberration. That's a pattern.
Break point to defend.
Game, Sinner.
It's another service game that slips away. It's been a tough set.
To be a better athlete than he was a year ago, and he already is. Next year he'll be even better.
Familiar pattern, familiar outcome.
15 love.
Yeah, a lot of the problem there is in the technique. He's waiting for the ball to come to him. He's trying to hit it as late as possible rather than going to meet it. He's quite upright, so a lot of it is movement related.
3 points away from a 2-set lead.
All right, so that is just the second forehand winner of this match for Alex Michelsen. So if you're trying to change an outcome here, I think at this stage he should realize that net rushing is not going to get it done. And this is the next move. Try and go nuclear on the ground strokes and finish things off there. Or if Sinner's able to get a paw on it, hopefully he just chops it up in the air and you can hit overheads or high volleys. But he's got to go bigger off the ground strokes now. That's what I would be saying if I was Jay Levitt,
15-13.
Michelson's coach, who's been barking instructions when he can, trying to keep his player positive.
All.
Couple of big serves just at the right time from Sinner. There he is with set point. Effective serving to the body to wrap things up.
Sinner.
And it is a second set bagel for the world number 1.
Sinner leads 2 sets to love. New balls, please. Michelson to serve.
To make more of a match of this one. So hopefully that'll be the case in this third set.
Yeah,
Let's see what he can produce.
I'd like to see him get up, stop sitting still. These fans.
Get
a little passion going down there. Right now it's a little flat, which is understandable when it's a one-way traffic and an American's on the losing end of things.
Big day tomorrow for two of the most exciting Americans, Tiafoe and Shelton.
How do you see that one shaking out, Lee?
Oh, it's going to be fun, isn't it? It's going to be fun. It was good to see Francis playing some better tennis than Cincy. He made the final, of course. Are you asking for a winner?
No, I'm just asking for your, what your feelings are around the match.
Yeah, two massive personalities. Both play exciting tennis.
Come on, let's put Jim on the spot here. Jim?
I'll tell you one
How do you
thing.
see that one shaking out?
I think that Tiafoe reacted last year. He was kind of muted emotionally during the match. All right, good volley there off of a straight down the middle approach. But I thought that Francis was a little bit almost intimidated in a way with the Ben's ability to get the crowd engaged and his brashness out there, the boldness with which he plays, and kind of carries himself out there. I expect there to be a little bit more kind of chest-to-chestness of that, trying to fight for who gets the crowd in that match. I think it's going to be a pretty taut affair. I can't pick a winner, Robbie.
Like it, like it.
You're a big fan of the one-on-one combat, Robbie, aren't you?
I am. I absolutely love it. I think that third set tiebreaker was a real tipping point for Tiafoe last year.
That's it.
Yeah, that third set tiebreak, if you can remember that sequence of points, I think was Shelton, who had 2 set points. Then Tiafoe saves both of those. He has a set point of his own on serve, doesn't take it, and then eventually Ben wins that third set, and everything unfolded thereafter. I think whoever won that third set was going to win the match. That gave Ben the momentum, and of course the hanging up of the phone at the end of the match was just the that was the icing, right? Everybody was talking about it thereafter.
I think it caught a few people's attention.
Yeah.
Michelson trying to put a game back on the board. It's been a minute for him. Hour and 14 minutes of play. This is moving apace. Boy, what a bluff, huh? Got away with that one. That was a pair of twos coming to the net.
Advantage, Michelson.
I thought that was normal, Jim.
Pair of twos, king high.
Big first game this. Can he get things back on track early in the third? It's just deep. It's well done. That's a start.
Tennis Academy in Largo, Florida, where we would play games where you had to get the ball past the service line, and if you didn't, you lost the point. The only space available in the court. It's not anything groundbreaking. I'm sure people were doing that all over the world long before that. But that was a focus of us, was playing games that had to require depth. And as you got better, the depth was required even closer to the baseline. You get half of that box, that space. But even as a pro, as we see Michelson rip a forehand winner there, starting to unload a little bit. When I was lucky enough to join forces with Jose Higueras, the great Spanish player and coach, he would put a net, kind of like a pole over the net, so I had to hit the ball with basically double the height of the net to focus on getting more shape on the shot and depth. Because Americans tend to be very aggressive-minded tennis players innately. We tend to play up most of our tennis on hard courts, hit a lot flatter ground strokes than some of the Europeans that grow up on clay. So as Higueras was a Spaniard, he taught Michael Chang the same things. He taught me, taught Todd Martin. So many of the players that came through Palm Springs with him, we learned how to play more like a European, and it worked well for us. Is any of that ring true for your upbringing in SA?
It's funny because I remember when I would do drills cross court, for me it was about making the shots and not having the emphasis on the depth. Well, I made 20 backhand cross courts in the drill. Yeah, I'm feeling good, but I wasn't cognizant enough of where they were landing, Jim. And I think, you know, it's just a mistake on my understanding of what I was doing.
Forehand, wasn't it, off the lob?
Yeah, this is the tough end where Michelson is, because the sun is out now and it's a lot brighter than earlier, gentlemen. So
just couldn't pick that up, could he?
Absolutely, the angle that it was coming in at was just perfectly aligned with the sun.
I do like that he's hitting more aggressively on his ground strokes, though, early doors here in set 3. Definitely seeing a little more velocity and intensity in those shots, a little more intent to do damage.
Beautifully redirected. It's come through his opening service game.
1 game on, third set.
Just to conclude that point, I think depth is that magic elixir in this sport. So often can get told to focus on racket head speed and hitting the ball hard, but I think at the same time you have to have big cognizance of where the ball lands. So tough to defend depth. You know, Alex is looking straight into the sun now. Of course, you couple depth with pace. They're in business.
30 love. Love. Game, Michelson.
Much better start to this. That's where Alcaraz finds himself. Pass van der Zandschulp later.
Yeah, I think Alcaraz had a pretty friendly draw overall when it came out, given Hurkacz's knee troubles as his seed he was slated to meet in the quarterfinals. Could open the door for someone who's having a tremendous year in Alex de Minaur. See if the Demon can step through that opportunity.
Too quick.
Oh, he's like a panther across the court. Good sprinter out of the blocks. He was so low for his first 4 steps. And of course that gives you much better perspective when you want to then execute your shot. You're not upright, you had a better visual of the court. What an athlete this guy is.
Oh.
Many will be aware, of course, of his past as a champion skier from where he came from in the mountains of Austria, Italy, excuse me. Very close to the Austrian border, though. I was watching Jannik in Vienna last year. It was like a local hero in Vienna. Had a real connection with the crowd. It was once the Austrians lost in the draw, he was the favourite.
Given the connection with Novak as well, I think the next generation of tennis players are all going to grow up being skiers, certainly in their early years. That'll be That'll be the precursor to being a world-class tennis player.
2 games on, 3rd set.
Quick reminder to join us on social media. You can stay connected to the US Open on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and WhatsApp this year. Join the conversation with hashtag US Open.
Let's go, come on.
Do you both subscribe to the theory that those days skiing definitely helps lay the foundations in terms of his movements? Something that we sometimes talk about.
Possibly, maybe it makes him more comfortable sliding open stance. Hasn't seemed to hinder some other players who are also quite capable at it, who didn't have a lot of snow nearby. But it's a great story, so I'm willing to allow it and just go with the flow. You don't need to fight everything that you guys say. Honestly, I mean, I think it's a cute story, but I think the most important secret sauce to learning how to move effectively on a tennis court is growing up with a lot of clay underneath your feet. Then sliding's totally natural. You don't worry about it. I think the very best thing is Sinner's threatening to get potentially a fatal break here at love 30 is for players to do what I had the luxury of doing, which is to play on a clay court and a hard court in the same day. Don't change your shoes, don't change anything, just go do it. Terrible luck for Michelson, and here comes trouble. The point that I really enjoyed about that was I was not intimidated or thinking much about changing surfaces because I did it basically 3 or 4 times a week at Tennis Academy. Now, I know that's a luxury in and of itself to be in an environment that has those surfaces, but if you can, that's the best way to be a great mover in tennis.
First one slips away, but 2 more chances.
15-14.
Sinner looking to go on the attack. I imagine he'll be very pleased to get through this in straight sets if he can race through this 3rd set, given how tight it was in Cincy between these two. He's got him again. Picks him off. So with the break, 2-set advantage looking good in this 3rd now, 3-2.
18-11.
Look to finish things quickly.
No.
Lucci or O'Connell will be the 2 players he could face next.
Yeah. Probably in the warm-up zone underneath Arthur Ashe Stadium. Iga Swiatek and Shibahara getting ready to play here. Next up on Ashe. It's about that time. You get the bands out. You get on the bike. Look at the treadmill. Start to get the blood flowing. Juices flowing. Another world #1 coming on court. Traveling in pairs. They played the night session together on Tuesday night as well. Swiatek leading off.
It's a nice ticket, a day session today. Tough to get your hands on these tickets, as is always the case. Record numbers through the gates this week and last week during Fan Week.
Again, Sinner.
Jim, I don't have a stats monitor in front of me. What are the net approaches for Sinner so far in this contest, please?
He's 4 of 4 in this set, and he's 13 for 18 overall. So just a shade over 70%. Those are acceptable numbers, I think. Robbie, what about you?
Absolutely. I was just looking back at that epic match that he played against Alcaraz, and I remember I was commentating on it with Nick, and we all thought of Alcaraz as somebody who's adventurous, but even that night, you know, Jannik was learning his trade. He came in 64 times in that match against Alcaraz when he lost in the quarters, and with good success as well. He came in more than Alcaraz that evening, and that's where Darren and Simone have been good. The growth mindset that they've always encouraged, but having a student who's prepared to then take it on and do it in a match, it's not always easy. Hope Michelson learns from that.
It's that combination, depth and power, starting to pull away once more. Finish line is within sight now.
Not a good feeling for Alex Michelsen. He looks out of ideas over there. Definitely a little overwhelmed by the awesomeness of Jannik Sinner at the moment. Baby match points, boys. 3 of them.
Yep. Almost done this one. Break point of the match for Sinner. Looking for his 8th break of serve today.
30-14.
One more chance. From the top seeds.
Just playing tennis, and he's, well, we know he's pretty good at that.
Three more points will do it. The recent Cincinnati champion in Miami earlier this year as well. Sinner at Masters 1000 level, the biggest tournaments on the ATP Tour. 9 of those through the season.
$13.
Just a second double fault today. It's been pretty light on aces this match, just 3 apiece.
Sensational. That's what that is, guys. The movement.
15.
I was just focusing on Jannik's movement in that point, and he is so explosive. And for such a big guy, he gets down so well. The soft skills of that little slice cross court, the short slice, and then the acceleration with the forehand. He's got such a wonderful skill set. You're able to use it beautifully.
2 match points. Mostly on cruise control today after a tight opening set. Sinner too good for the young American. Fairly one-sided in truth. 4-love and 2 today. Into round 3. And that will be a pleasing outcome, experience and result, Jim, here inside Arthur Ashe Stadium.
All good things for Jannik Sinner, playing on